Hi, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. I want to try to get to 1 million subscribers. Thank you. This case takes place in the UK in the year 2014. Meet Alice Gross. Alice was born on the 14th of February 2000 to her parents Jose Gross and Rosalind Joan. Alice had an older sister named Nina Gross, whom she loved dearly. Together, Alice's parents raised two wonderful children from their home in Hanwell, a town in the London borough of Ealing. Countless people have described Alice as a truly lovely young girl. Her natural curiosity drove her to excel academically. Her head teacher at school would later say that she was incredibly bright. Alice also had a deep connection to nature, which she expressed through her artwork. She was also a gifted songwriter who composed and performed her own songs, which displayed her creativity and emotional depth. She could play the piano, and she was a confident actor. She was adored by her family and friends and all who knew her. However, despite these positive things in her life, Alice had a troubled time leading up to the year 2014. She was going through some personal physical changes, as we all do in our teenage years. And unfortunately, Alice began to struggle with anorexia, a condition that impacted her health and well-being. This was whilst pressure was mounting at school as she was in Year 9, studying for her GCSE exams. This made Alice a particularly vulnerable person prone to fainting. But with that said, she was resilient and she rarely let it get in the way of her education and her love for music. When Alice was at school, she was tasked with writing an essay. The essay was on the issues of freedom of movement across Europe. Essentially, Alice wrote that she believed in the free movement of people across Europe, even if those people had committed crimes. She argued that banning these criminals from entering the UK would introduce the idea of racism, as it would imply Britain believes that foreign criminals are different and more dangerous compared to British criminals. This essay would later be shared by Alice's parents. This detail is a chilling and almost prophetic foreshadowing of Alice's fate. On Saturday, the 28th of August 2014 at 1 p.m, Alice set off for a walk along the Grand Union Canal beside the River Brent. The Grand Union Canal is a scenic, nature-filled stretch of the canal system that connects London to Birmingham. Alice went on walks in nature often, and this wasn't out of the ordinary. As she left, she said to her mother that she would be home by 6 p.m. Alice was very precise when it came to her timings. She would always arrive when she said she would. She was never late, or if she was going to change her plans, she would always let her parents know. And so on this day, she went for her walk. She headed south from Hanwell to Brentford. The route took her past Hanwell Lock, Trumper Field, past Boston Manor Park, and all the way to the Brentford Lock. At 15:45, she was spotted on cameras at Brentford Lock. This was likely the turning point before making her way back up to Hanwell. Alice brought with her her phone, but she also left with no money. She was last spotted near the Trumper Way underpass at 4:26 p.m. Cyclists zipped by, eager to get home on their evening commute. But as Alice walked along the path, an ominous presence fell upon her. A dangerous man was watching, waiting to make his move. Arnis Zalkans. Arnis was born in Latvia in the year 1973, though the specific details about his early life and upbringing are very limited. Arnis grew up in Latvia and began working on building sites from the age of 16. As he reached adulthood, he developed a tendency to pursue young, impressionable women in nightclubs. Whilst in these nightclubs, he also engaged in the dealing of recreational illegal substances. He eventually met a lovely young woman named Rodita. Rodita was a seamstress, and Arnis won her over in a nightclub. He showered her with compliments and promises of a happy future together. They both started a relationship, and when Rodita became pregnant, the couple decided to marry quickly. And in an unconventional choice, Arnis insisted that they both take her maiden name instead of his family name. Rodita's mother disapproved of Arnis from the beginning. She described him as a controlling man with a fierce temper. She said that this was her daughter's first boyfriend, and that she was deeply in love. So what could she do? She described her daughter as a gentle, loving and carefree soul, but she could also be naive and see the best in people. As their relationship continued, a series of very unfortunate events transpired. To begin with, Arnis would openly have affairs with other women, causing a strain on the marriage. But after their daughter Elvira was born in February of 1995, their relationship worsened even further. Rudita would write in her diary. She wrote about her growing fear and depression due to her husband's aggressive and controlling behavior. In 1996, after a heated argument, Arnis shot her in the stomach with a low-caliber gun. Although she survived, Arnis refused to pay for her surgery to remove the bullet lodged near her spine, leaving doctors simply to stitch up the wound, leaving the bullet inside of her. Initially, Rudita claimed that she had been shot by a biker gang in a case of mistaken identity, and she did this to cover up what her husband had done. But she eventually plucked up the courage and told her mother the truth, that her husband Arnis had shot her. With that said, she was still too scared to report her husband to the police, and so she stayed with him. Arnis was a cold, resentful and paranoid evil man. His aggression continued until 1997, when he administered his final blow. In March of 1997, Arnis decided that he wanted to kill his wife, the mother of his daughter. The motives of this murder are unclear. He made his way to a secluded woodland and dug a hole fit to bury a person. At the side of the shallow grave, he placed a scaffolding pipe and a knife in preparation of what was to come. Arnis went back home and persuaded Rudita to come with him into the woods. He then lured her to the spot where the grave was, and he hatched his plan. In what must have been some terrifying final moments, he picked up the scaffolding pipe and hit her over the head over and over again. Arnis then picked up the knife and plunged it through her heart. Once she was dead, he dragged her body into the shallow grave and buried her in the earth. He then stood over where her dead body was buried and toasted the moment with a shot of vodka. In an attempt to cover his tracks, he claimed that he didn't know where his wife had gone and expressed worry to his close friends and family. A missing person investigation soon began, and detectives found Rudita's diaries explaining how she was scared of her husband. Eventually, Arnis was arrested by the Latvian authorities the following year, and in July of 1998, he confessed to the murder of his wife. He then showed them the location where he had buried her. In a pathetic attempt to explain his motive, he claimed Rudita was a homosexual, and that she had been repeatedly unfaithful and had had encounters with other women in nightclubs. Moreover, he tried to persuade the judge that she was a deviant and that she had touched their young daughter. Whatever Arnis's plan was, it tragically worked. A Latvian judge sentenced him to 12 years in prison, and he would go on to serve only 7. His daughter was then brought up by Rudita's mother, and Arnis had very little contact with her after his release from prison in 2005. Arnis then married another woman, and the two had a baby boy. Rudita's mother tried to warn his new wife of what he had done, but his new wife didn't care, and soon enough, the new family of 3 left Latvia with the promise of a better life in London. They emigrated in 2007. Arnis and his new family moved into a house in Ealing, West London. He worked jobs on building sites as a labourer. However, life didn't return to normal for Arnis after the troubles he left behind in Latvia, as in 2009 he was arrested in connection with an indecent assault on a 14-year-old girl. However, tragically, the victim chose not to cooperate with the police, leading to the case being discontinued, and Arnis was subsequently released. At that time, no check for foreign convictions was conducted when he entered the country. It was not standard police policy, and police officers lacked the widespread knowledge on how to perform such checks. And just like that, Arnis got away with another crime against an innocent woman. Rudita's mother claimed that he was still a threat to society when he left Latvia, but nobody listened to her. On the 28th of August 2014 at 4:10 p.m, Arnis spotted Alice while riding his bike on his way home. His aggression towards women and his sexual urges could not be contained. When he saw young Alice, he knew that he could have his way with her just like the previous girl in 2009, and he likely knew that he might be able to get away with it as well. Alice was a 14-year-old 5'2" girl with a very slim build, and Arnis, he was a 41-year-old man, 5'10" tall with a stocky build. Upon spotting her, Arnis rode past Alice so he could dismount from his bike and hide in a dark spot behind vegetation, waiting to ambush her. At some point after 16:24 p.m, Arnis engaged Alice by swiping her from the path. He grabbed her and took her to a nearby secluded area and ripped off her clothing. Arnis then forced himself upon her. As he carried out this cruel and callous assault, his heavy body weighed down on Alice's small frame, making it incredibly difficult for Alice to breathe. With each exhalation, she struggled for the next inhalation. After he had finished, he looked down. He saw that Alice was dead. He had compressed her small frame so much that he essentially suffocated her to death. In an attempt to cover up what he had done, he took off the remaining clothing and tied her up in the fetal position, wearing nothing but a single sock. He then placed her inside several bin bags and placed several bricks and a bike wheel inside for extra weight. He then rolled up his trousers and carried her into the River Brent. He placed her in a shallow area of the river and covered her with 6 large tree trunk logs in a pyramid shape. After leaving Alice here, he travelled to a local shop and purchased some alcohol. Approximately 25,000 young people go missing in London every single year, which is a shocking statistic, but the majority are found within a few days with multiple reasons for their absence. The authorities know that the first couple of days are critical for locating missing people. Once a few days have gone by, the chances of finding a young missing person dwindles, and so do the chances of them being found alive. Once Alice didn't return home, her mother was distraught. She knew that Alice left the house with no money, so she knew that she couldn't have gone far. Something must have happened. After all, Alice was always punctual and always mindful of time. By the 1st of September, 4 days after her disappearance, the Metropolitan Police had spoken with her friends, conducted house-to-house inquiries, and searched parks and open spaces in an effort to locate her. But Alice was still missing, and there were absolutely no leads. Alice's family then made a heartfelt appeal, urging her to get in touch, saying that they desperately missed her. Her mother voiced her deep concern, explaining that the main reason why her family had such concerns for her well-being was due to her suffering from anorexia. There was a chance that Alice may have collapsed and fallen into the River Brent. The police were worried about this too. However, as more time went on, they knew that this wasn't the case. By now, her body would have decomposed and floated to the surface, making her easy to spot. This then led the police to believe that someone had a hand in her disappearance. On the 4th of September 2014, a week after her disappearance, the police released CCTV footage capturing the last time that Alice was seen alive. In the footage, she could be seen wearing a purple backpack, walking alone. Soon after, the police also announced that they had discovered a purple rucksack that she had been carrying alongside the path. This bag also contained the shoes that she was wearing that day. Her family then renewed their appeals for help, with her mother making an emotional plea. She said, "We'd like to say to Alice first of all that we miss her and that we love her, and that she is in no trouble. We just want to know that she's safe. We just want her to know that she can come home." Investigators then showed photographs to the public of cyclists who rode by the location where Alice was last spotted, aiming to track them down for further information. As a result of this, on the 6th of September 2014 at around 5 p.m, the police took a 25-year-old man into custody in the Ealing area on suspicion of murder. A day later, on the 7th of September 2014, a second man was arrested and taken into police custody. This time, he was 51 years old. But none of them were Arnis. However, these two men were soon ruled out. On the same day, they escalated the searches to include divers and sniffer dogs. Next, Alice's father made another plea for his daughter, expressing how there is a massive hole in the family. But still, there was no sign of Alice. By the 16th of September, the detectives at Scotland Yard uncovered that there was another man in the area at the time that Alice was last seen. This man was Arnis. All focus shifted onto him. The CCTV evidence showed that Arnis would have passed Alice towards the towpath at around 4:10 p.m, when he then stopped for at least 80 minutes before continuing along the path. When he reappeared on camera, Arnis's appearance indicated that he might have been in the water, as his trouser legs were rolled up. The CCTV footage then showed him buying beer in a nearby shop later that evening. As the police kept searching for evidence, they found more footage showing that he was last seen in a shop on the 4th of September. He was carrying a heavy rucksack. When the police went to his house, there was no sign of Arnis. The police then questioned his family, but they were shocked to hear that Arnis had been missing since the 4th of September. The family explained that this was completely out of character and his family were very worried about him. The authorities thought that he may have run back to Latvia after the 4th of September. However, they were surprised to find that his bank account had not been accessed for days and his passport was still at home. So where did he go and what did he do? While the police broadened their search for the victim and the prime suspect, Alice's mother continued her search for Alice. On the 25th of September 2014, 28 days after Alice's disappearance, Rosalind was interviewed by BBC's Crime Watch. On the show, she made another appeal, and a graphic was produced showing Alice's last footsteps. Rosalind said, "There isn't a moment in the day where we're not thinking about Alice, where she is, and what might have happened, or why she disappeared." On the 29th of September 2014, police officers began to comb the National Trust estate named Osterley Park, around 2 miles away from where Alice was last seen. This search became the largest search conducted by the Metropolitan Police since 2005 in the 7/7 bombings. There were around 600 officers across 19 forces. They searched around 25 square kilometres of open land and 5.5 kilometres of canals and rivers. Finally, on the 30th of September, 33 days after she was last seen, Alice Gross's decomposed remains were discovered by police concealed beneath 6 large tree trunks in the River Brent. She was found naked in the fetal position, wearing nothing but a single sock. She was enclosed within layers of bin bags, which had been weighed down by bricks. The rest of her clothing was never found. This was made official when the family identified her body on the 1st of October 2014. The police now knew that she had been murdered. But why? And so they released a statement. A post-mortem was then conducted. Initially, it came back inconclusive in revealing the cause of death. However, the police revealed that Arnis's DNA was found on Alice's shoe and a cigarette butt at the scene of the crime. When further examining Arnis's workplace and house, they discovered Alice's phone case buried in the back garden, and one of the bags used to conceal her body matched a roll of bin bags found at his workplace. As more tests were conducted on Alice's body, it was thought that the murder method was compression asphyxiation, caused by a larger body lying on top of a smaller body, leading to the suggestion that the motive was sexual. The police kept searching for Arnis, thinking that he could still be at large or abroad. However, on the 4th of October 2014, the police uncovered the location of Arnis, and he was not in the state that they thought they would find him in. Arnis was found 20 minutes away from where Alice's body was found, in a densely wooded area. They found him heavily decomposed, swinging from a tree. This was confirmed when his body was identified 2 days later. It was clear that Arnis had murdered young Alice, disposed of her body, and had then done this to himself. And so, the case was closed. Alice's funeral was held on the 23rd of October 2014. She was driven through her hometown of Hanwell, in a coffin decorated with patterns, which depicted a meadow scene and Alice's 3 beloved cats. This was painted by her grandmother, sister, and a family friend, symbolizing her love for nature. The case then became rather politicised due to Alice being killed by a foreign man. This then led to her parents releasing the essay that she had once written. The Metropolitan Police then announced a policy update after Alice's murder. When a foreign national is arrested, as Arnis was in 2009, a thorough background check will now include criminal records from abroad. In 2015, Alice's family called for targeted reforms to improve the exchange of information on high-risk offenders across Europe, making it harder for criminals to enter the United Kingdom. The case of Alice is truly tragic, and is one that should have been avoided. The fact that the UK allowed such a dangerous man to enter the country is nothing short of despicable.